Aurelion Soul's like not even, he's like a celestial being, right? Like he's not just even, I mean, he is a dragon, but he's not just a normal dragon. He's like the...
Do you know what he reminds me of? The dragons from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, oh, the first time I saw one of those,
oh, such a magical feeling. Right?
And the music sets in, and you're like, I don't know what's happening. Well, what's going on? And then you'll look up. Oh,
the essence of mystical.
So good, so good.
Well, I've seen this before, Chronicler, as the Udyr is locked in, the Lilia being considered, Pyosik having a giggle. He's like, how am I supposed to get a pentakill on this champion? I struggled so much in game 1. Let's see what else they're going to draft in order to augment it. Last time it was Tristana. Let's see where the bow is going to head a different direction this time around.
DRX are kind of hard to call. Just don't pick Nah, and we will be fine.
Not a huge fan of this either, but
I think this is excusable considering the fact that Tristana's banned. Yes, Liiv Sandbox can go for something like the Senna Kench, but they're not going to because they want effort on a hard engage champion. And this is one of the main issues that we have collectively identified with Liiv Sandbox, and that is that they are very, very easy to read. They are just predictable to a fault, and they will just lock in the Alistar. And I don't think the Alistar is bad, like don't get me wrong, but just lock in the Senna and the Kench here, right? And
that would be the TLS play, right? But
it's
I also wouldn't mind if they locked in Princess Ezreal, because he has been very, very good on that champion. Does unlock effort, like you've mentioned many times before. But I can't help but think that it's
going to be... No. Syndra's okay, I can accept that.
I'm okay with it.
Same. I think that Liiv Sandbox, you know, the problem in game number 2 was not necessarily your draft. Like, I disagree with the draft. Actually, I think the Gnaw was a problem, but the rest of that, with better execution, I can see that work. Right? Yep. Like, and it is on brand for Liiv Sandbox. We need to rate the draft of these teams within the context of the team. Liiv Sandbox are never winning late. Like, I don't see it happen. I don't think they see it happen. It needs to be a case of win, stomp lane, right? Find the early skirmishes, get a lead, and snowball that. Otherwise, I think your odds against DRX, even this form of DRX, are not as great. Because do think back to that first game, even with the gold lead as big as it was, there were still moments where you were like, ooh, need to be a little bit careful. Then once the soul came in, that was not a problem whatsoever anymore. But probably Camille and a Jace ban coming through here.
I'd expect that too.
DRX, just to make sure that Kingen does not suffer the fate that Summit suffered in game number 2. Game number 1, of course, a completely different story. And as Liiv Sandbox, I think you're looking for maybe a bit more hard engage. An Orianna would be absolutely lovely. Although I can also see DRX pick that away because Sorka loves it. It powers up your Lilia and you pick it away from a Udyr and a Samira. That's just all around a big win.
Feels pretty good to me. I'm thinking about the Aurelia and whether or not that actually gets looked at. Of course, a pretty decent matchup into the Gnaw and has been historically, but we haven't seen it for the last little while. It often gets banned. As the Zoe going to be taken away instead. We'll see where DRX's heads are at as far as their next pickup. Could be just a support, because they have, of course, seen the bottom lane already, as Rel will be taken away as well. So Leona probably looking like the next cab off the rank. Either that or a Nautilus or a Blitzcrank. If you just want to press the Blitzcrank button, seems fine to me.
Okay, I think Bao's having some fun. That's okay. It's the final game of the regular split.
Yeah, and then they're going to pick Leona. That's exactly what we expected.
Yeah, no surprises in there.
That's a Pantheon. That would be reaching all the way back into the history books of what destroys Gnaw.
This makes a lot more sense.
And there's the Jace. So
no surprises?
Summit is going to give King Ian a taste of his own medicine.
Okay. I personally would have been a big fan of an Orianna, and I think the Jace is fine, obviously, for the counter matchup into the Gnaw. It wasn't banned. Summit hopefully will be able to punish that matchup as much.
Do it, Sulka. Don't be scared.
Yes.
Oh, no, that's not... no, that's not what I wanted. Take it away.
Honestly, Atlas, there is a Samira in the game, and at this point, Samira is a champion that we don't see very often anymore, right? She fits into specific comps. I think it's a decent pick. It's not nearly as mind-blowingly strong as it was at the beginning of the split, and even then, teams identified that it could actually be exploited. It could actually be played against pretty decently. A lot of CC is one of those ways, and there is a considerable amount available here for DRX. But simultaneously, I like this Liiv Sandbox comp a whole lot more. I think it is much more well-rounded, and I think that even though they still need to win the early game, I think they have a lot more tools. I think the individual matchups are looking a lot stronger, although you won't have Prio on mid lane. Your bot lane, your top lane are looking peachy. Croco can hopefully get something done and put Pioshik in his place again, and otherwise, it will be the most DRX thing to win this in a 45-minute.
Yep, comeback victory after having a goal disadvantage after a fumbled early game. That's what the script reads. Okay, because we're getting a little bit lax. There's not quite as much at stake for this particular match. We may as well give you guys a peek behind the curtain. We of course have absolutely everything laid out. We're not paid as commentators. We're paid as actors. We need to pretend that everything is a surprise. And we know how this one's going to work. So I guess we'll just, we can share that with you this time around. And that is the DRX. They will have a decent time in the early laning phase, and then someone will make an error, they'll fall behind. Then they will find a heroic skirmish around the mid game. And then we're going to be tussling for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then something will happen. Liiv Sandbox will leave a foot out of place, and DRX will get an ace and take the game. That's at least what the script has said, and it's not often wrong.
Main question is, how many Monster Hunter references are you going to make while that is happening?
Oh, none. I am a professional. I would never talk about the game that I've just sunk about 25 hours into.
When did it come out again?
About 25 hours ago. No, it was a bit earlier than that. I got lucky because I have an Australian Switch, and so therefore, in comparison to Wolf, who had the American one, I had the game for
time zone wise. That's not it.
Like an extra 12 hours or something like that. It was pretty dope. I felt like I had a cheat code. It was pretty exciting. But I also still have to, like, if we're gonna play together, have to just do stuff at the same rate as you guys anyway, because I'll have to go back and do it. But still, has been a lot of fun. As is this Udyr skin, so I guess there's that. And on the side of Liiv Sandbox, like, all jokes aside about scripts and things like that, like, this is a composition that can certainly get some exciting things done. I do like Samira just because she's fun. And Fate has had some decent Azir games in his time. Summit has also crushed lanes as Jace before. And I want to see some vintage Summit really put it to King, and as we can see right now, trading some autos. That was a Narnian shotgun blast right there. His headbutt going to get Bao completely out of this fight. Narnian, is that a word?
I mean, I know what you meant. I don't think it's actually a word, no.
Yeah. If you come from Narnia, I think you're still a Narnian. We'll need the collective to confirm that.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
This is something that's really interesting to me, right? Because how is it that it was, of all like children franchises, Narnia, that really became so commonplace within the League of Legends scene? But like as a skill set, it just goes to nowhere. Because there's so many.
For that one.
There's,
it's just Egypt.
There's Hogwarts, right? Like there's so many popular franchises that it could have been. There's Middle Earth.
Yeah, Middle Earth. That's not bad. That's not bad. But it is a little bit wordy. Narnia is just so easy because it's like 5 letters. I'm into that. You know, you can knock out Narnia quite comfortably within a play-by-play moment. As in goes Summit once again. Not exactly trading super effectively, as Kingen is going to give him the good old thumbs up. Oh, we've got mental warfare at play here as well. Not what you want to see here on the bottom side of the map. DRX still shoving in. And they have control of almost all of these lanes. Not exactly the greatest news for an Udyr, but Rocco not looking too perturbed about it, as he's just going to come through, clean out this ward. Shock Blast going to go wide yet again. Kingen is actually absorbing a lot of this pressure quite effectively.
Yeah, sidestepping super well. It's going to be a even trade.
Narnia is 6 letters. I'm an idiot. Oh, man. It's been a long day. Or is it just NA? NIA.
No,
that's Narnia,
NIA.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Me being from Australia, you know, NA, NAR, it's the same.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
I can use excuse as well, but it's more about my use of language and accent than it is about
Yes.
specific phrases.
Yeah. I mean, I have no excuse, really.
You've told me it's a separate language. Australian, that is.
Australian, yeah, but we like to pretend that it's English. So I need to try and keep that ruse going for the rest of my countrymen. And,
For the collective.
Yes, exactly. Well, let's not a whole lot of action in this early stage of the game as Kingin will land the wallop there onto Summit. There's the flash forward from Kyoshik, lands the bowling ball as well, and watch out, Eep, you are dead. First blood over to DRX's jungler once again. He's going for that 1100 POG point.
You want to make it worse? That's after Summit teleported. That is that entire wave is going to get shoved into his turret, right? Like, oh, that is just painful. And I'm trying to do some analysis.
I love that his name is Effort, and that looked like the most low effort freeze that he could possibly try and get. Beautiful.
It's getting late. We're getting giddy.
So good. I hope we get it. Oh no, it's the top lane. I wanted to see that again. We are going to check this one out. It was actually pretty well played here from Kyoshik.
It was. Not just Kyoshik. I think the setup from King is really nice as well. And this is a problem with Summit that we've seen time and time again, where even though he's, I think, one of the most reliable hard carries if he gets a lead, he's also the most prone, next to perhaps Grocko, that we've seen on Liiv Sandbox. And now the lane is going to be shoving away from him if Kingen finds a freeze here. Kyoshik is in the top side of the map. Grocko is nowhere near. I guess you could say he is in a different world, which will not be named through a wardrobe, but it's definitely far away.
Yep, got it.
And the problem with that is that that's just going to be another ganking opportunity. Someone wants to shove out this wave really, really badly, but he's just leaving himself open to a gank, but the alternative is just as bad, and Kyoshik's making his way up.
Yeah, few autos cancelled there, unfortunately, for Summit, so it doesn't get quite enough damage as, okay, it's sleepy time for Summit. And this is yet another kill. Kyoshik just feasting on the Jace.
It's tilt. That's... they're in his head. You 100% know what's going to happen there. Jace, he has the slow push. He feels like he needs to shove out the wave. I think, though, that if Summit, he doesn't go for the trade there, and literally all he does is he uses his skills on the waves, shoves in the waves, and backs off, he might live there. Yeah. Might not, because if the bowling ball hits him, or like Kyoshik gets on top of him and he sleeps, he's dead no matter what. But I just feel like he didn't need to die there, and if he doesn't die there, then all of a sudden it's looking a lot better. Now the gold lead is getting bigger, another wave gets shoved into his turret, there's no plates, but it's still just an awkward position. And like I said, look at the trade he goes for here. If you use all these skills just on the wave, this is straight up greedy, right? Like, yes, he gets hit there, yes, it's unfortunate. He probably is dead either way as Kyoshik has his passive stacked up. But if you back off that earlier, just clear the wave with your accelerated shock blast, I think you can live. And that is something that teams have been happy to punish.
Yeah, well, now especially Kyoshik as well, who has been the beneficiary. As you can see, 730 gold. Not exactly end of the world, but it is still quite early. And the Gnar having an advantage against the Jace is bad news, Bears. As once again, the trades are good. You just need to make sure you know that there's not Bambi waiting in the wings, who's extraordinarily angry about what you're doing. Angry Bambi indeed. It's okay. Down into the river goes Summit, not wanting to be spotted out. We'll be able to get some vision, most likely. Now Becca just going to wander up the river here. DRX. Bottom lane, not too much to worry about. Has, of course, 12 CS advantage for Prince, actually playing out the early laning phase quite well as far as farm. Bao and Becca probably just happy to chill and cruise. So far, yeah, on 11.5, Udyr's been pretty good into the Lilia. We saw game 1 was an example of this as well. I'm glad that we bring up this stat after Kyoshik gets 2 kills.
It's interesting. It would make sense to me that the Lilia has less room for mistakes, because if you overstep a little bit, Udyr is just, it's so straightforward, right? You run in, you kill them. Or fade.
Oh, this is actually very cute. The bait does come through. Kyoshik, though, very strong. and Solka, they're not going to be able to commit to the kill. Flash available for the Udyr if he wants to. Fate as well, so not really too much gained, but not too much lost either.
If the bowling ball doesn't hit Fate, Solka's dead. Or at the very least he has to flash. But what happens instead is because of the threat of a big sleep play, Fate can't go in. And that's actually, that's literally what kind of breaks that play and provides a window of opportunity for DRX to find a counterplay. This is greedy. They're going to try and go for this Herald. Will be a 4 versus 4 if it does come to a fight. Priority is found, however, though, for Kingen, and I'm pretty happy that they give this up. I don't think they can do this.
Yep, Croco immediately going to run away back into his jungle. Beck is going to turn up as well. DRX knew that they had ample manpower available here towards the top side, but Shelly is going to get a little bit tired of being harassed, and we'll just head back home. And now we've got it carries on the bottom side. Bit of a trade here from Prince, who finds a blade well. There's the ulti at the same time. Bao is told to leave. Summit. Solar fled, but not committed to. Close enough to his turret to keep himself alive. Prince actually pretty aggressive, actually laning very nicely towards the bottom side.
As the Samira pick, especially in isolation, you can really put the hurt towards Bao, who didn't flash or heal, so your actual kill pressure is still fairly negligible, especially on the turret, but still nice to see. As I feel like we're collectively wasting a lot of time here on this Herald.
On both sides, right? As Becca gets shock blasted, Kingen very close to the Mega Gnar as he throws a screw into this minion wave.
It's not going to happen, I guess.
Yeah. Rocco's going to start it off again.
Attempt number 14.
Shelly is getting the most exercise that she's got in quite a while. With the amount of times that she's been wandering out of this pit. She's once again going to lose her patience and walk back again. So we will need to once again go for another releash for the 4th time.
It just keeps going.
This is a lot of milling about. As you can see, Fate's the beneficiary in the majority because he's been shoving wave after wave. But I think it has been answered for the most part. 4 members of DRX now in this area. Now Fate is going to wander up the river. Let's see what the Emperor's actually going to be able to do here as Kingen decides that he wants to get rid of him. Purshik should be able to get the smite at Summit, not going to land it onto Shelly there. It does eventually mean that Purshik grabs that Herald. The Jace also going to fall down. Effort gets a pulverize, but it's just not quite enough as now Becca, he's the one that told Croco that he wasn't allowed in this battle, and goodbye Fate, you are dead as well. Meanwhile, the bottom lane is just a 1v1, and that's absolutely fine as Becca's getting hunted down by Croco, but Croco knows that DRX have a lot more buddies available, and now it's 4-0 in the kill score.
And after an insanely well-played first game, Liiv Sandbox, we see the tilt. How Summit played out that skirmish was just disrespectful, right? He goes in so aggressively into a Gnar that is about to hit ultimate. So King didn't even have to flash. He was just right on top of him, and we've seen this matchup 3 times now, and Summit smashed it, even though he shouldn't have in the first time. But Kingen then not only smashes him in the second try, which is tilting in of itself, but then also flips it around and does what you did in the first game.
Yeah.
That's just painful.
Yeah, you mentioned it being pretty tilting, and I agree with you. It's going to be quite difficult. And playing as the Jace right now, when you're like, this is where I should be really getting my aggression on, you feel like that extra layer of pressure in the matchup as we have a Mountain Soul yet again. This time it could have been Cloud, and we hadn't even discussed it, but it is going to be the Mountain, so I've partially redeemed myself as Kingen's sidestep was actually beautiful here as well.
I have nothing more to add to that. It is a 4 versus 4 that is playable. Maybe if you get some poke, it might look a little bit better. But even in a straight up 5v5, you could be fine. However, Becca zoning is impeccable.
Yeah.
And then you have Kingen who just, Summit. It's pretty confusing with all the Jace and Gnars and back and forth that we've had. Just doesn't do anything. And this is starting to feel like a repeat of game number 1, but now from the point of view of DRX.
Yeah, it's sort of just on the other side. I do want to point out that Purshik's flash of the Emperor's Divide was absolutely beautiful. Not sure how entirely necessary it was. I think that they probably would have still been able to win themselves the fight, but did look really, really cool. And he is 100% kill contribution. And if you compare it to the first game, his Lilia performance was pretty forgettable, to be honest. This time around, certainly looking a whole lot better as looking to bowling ball onto Summit. Unfortunately, hits a melee minion. still trying to stack up this passive. He's just following along. The wallop going to be avoided, but it's Betty by his time for Summit, and he is going to go back to the death chamber.
He's just... Oh. That one hurts. Because it's... You know that you're going to be the source of attention because DRX have identified you as a weak spot, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. And the real issue here is that you're Jace. You need to play aggressive. If you just sit on the turret and farm, you don't do anything.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. And it's one of the reasons why, even in situations where teams can go for aggressive counter picks, they might instead look towards more stable things, like a Sion, right? There's a reason why so many teams have been kind of going for that. And yes, I think Summon has been making a couple of misplays. He's been playing a little bit disrespectful, but there's also only so much you can do when Pioshik has literally, outside of that one play in the mid lane, only visited your lane, like 5 times in a row.
Well, now Summit's going to get his revenge. Goodbye, Pioshik.
Oh my god.
Just finds him in the river. And
what?
Look at how angry Summit is, dude. He just completes his Eclipse, and he's like, yes, it is indeed lights out for you.
I'm done. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see whether he can do it again. He's got double buffs, exactly. Shock Blast going to go entirely wide. Narnia's to the right, though, so it didn't go there again.
And where did it go to? Which beloved children franchise?
It stayed on the Rift. It stayed on the Rift this time. Because I don't think I understand the names of enough mystical worlds, I guess. As, yeah, King's going to get chunked a little bit. And with the Stride Break ability, you still do a fair bit of damage with your lethality until Kingen does get at least, you know, an armor item of some kind. So, I guess...
What happened with the drive-by?
Yeah.
It's just, I'm running, dropping a ward and running.
I actually love it when he's trampling, because it does really look like he's busy.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I'm about to get something done.
He's got places to be.
Yeah. Excellent. Let's have a look at this one more time. As, yeah, this was the good Pioshik play.
Again, it's a 1 versus 2. If you're super fat, you might outplay that, but in this scenario, I don't think there's any way that you ever survive that. That initial miss on the Swirl Seed probably wouldn't have changed it that much, but with how that Pioshik is, maybe it at least gives him the stack to sidestep any of the other abilities. Because if you don't hit that and you don't have your passive stack, Lilia's movement speed is actually super, super low.
Yeah.
And you just get killed. I do want to see Liiv Sandbox implement Prince and actually utilize the power of this Samira pick, because this is when you want to make plays. This is where Samira feels super busted. When you have your Conqueror, you have your shield bow, you dive in the enemy backline, you swirl around, and all of a sudden everyone's dead.
Still an opportunity for that.
Could happen.
As Summit makes his way back up towards the top side, now has a kill. It might have been the huge play move to give him a kill so that they reset his gold value. No. You know?
No, not buying it. I can think about it more if you really want me to.
Yeah. Still remains a bad idea? Okay.
I'd personally argue no. If this was Sion though, I'd be like, okay, you know, then it's worth. Or
Singed. If it was Singed, yeah, exactly. Or if this was an older iteration of the game where that worked out a little bit better, then perhaps that's the thing too. Is that's a pulverize only onto Becca though, as the tower does go down. Zenith Blade, maybe not the one that Becca wanted, but Kingen's going to be here to help him out. Fate also going to die as Pioshik grabs that kill, and now he's booking it towards the bottom side. That is not the dive that Liiv Sandbox wanted, and it does feel like they're playing under so much pressure to get things done. As Summit, he's a happy boy. He at least gets some free time.
I think if you don't lose both people there, that's actually a trade you take, because you get first turret blood, and you force a teleport, so if you can then disengage, you're completely fine. Prince can't die here, though.
Yep, Solar Flare going to be Captain Jacked very nicely there, as the Blade Whirl also pretty good. Shield Bow will keep him alive for the moment, as Bao, one more turret shot, and he's dead. Prince keeps himself alive for the moment. Gets that S-rank to tidy up the minion wave, and Pioshik just gets to work on the turret. He'll be able to take that one down while the rest of his team was putting that pressure on the bottom side.
Yeah, I think that if you played a little bit better, that might be worth it. If you just sack Afford and Fade doesn't die, you're okay. But Fade goes for a really greedy jump over the wall there because he thinks I have vision, and then it's Scatter, Everfrost, bowling ball into sleep, and you just immediately lose any semblance of life that you might have. think giving up effort here for a first turret bot is completely fine. The flash is very unfortunate because Leona obviously follows you, especially when you flash in line. And because you get the turret on top, you get the turret on bot lane, and you force a teleport. But it's a little bit of a stretch coming out of it. Liiv Sandbox are not as far behind as the score might suggest. And I do legitimately feel that if they find a good angle here, if Prince can pop into a team fight, not get CC'd, and get into the enemy backline, this is still a point where I say they can win fights, especially if they play well around King and Snarbar.
See whether they can make it work. Speaking of the Narbar, Kingan does go to Mega Knight here, but he's just chilling on the bottom side. Very even elsewhere on the map, outside of the kills that DRX have been able to entirely mop up. See the Jace, like, Summit, after that kill, like he's put together another half an item or something like that, has tidied up that CS deficit. And the Shock Blast, if they land onto the squishies, and there are quite a few of them, he is going to be able to get work done. I think that so much of this game comes down to how much of an impact Kingan and Pyosik are going to have, because they've been the benefactors of every one of these moments in this early game thus far. And, okay, Prince just going to run away. Sidesteps the Solar Flare very nicely, so Becca is just going to sheepishly wander away.
Especially without your cleanse, that is a guaranteed death if you get hit there. And Liiv Sandbox, they're kind of floundering, they don't really know what to do. I think making sure that you get those Drakes is going to put you in a way better position. A lot of the DRX damage is going to be straight up burst. Scatter the weak, Kaiser running in and blowing you up. And that's really what you need to respect here. These fights, if you execute them well, can actually provide a really big boon for Liiv Sandbox. They need to be mindful of the hard engage coming through from backhand Kingan though.
Yeah, Kingan looking for his opportunity. Narbar at a really good position. Bait's going to scooch over the wall, but Croco not going to be so lucky as Becca goes on an adventure that he didn't necessarily want to, but it worked out relatively well. Kingan doesn't quite find the Nara as Croco is burning down and will be taken in the end. Decent scatter the weak for the stun onto Effort, but he will survive due to the unbreakable will. There is Pyosik locking down that crab. Liiv Sandbox still looking for some more opportunities as that's a scatter onto 3 members. Everfrost there as well. Solka's so good at this. Syndra, and he'll be rewarded with a double kill. Now Prince trying to run, but it's so unfortunate. He'll get eaten and destroyed. Bao grabs that kill, and now DRX thinking about whether or not a Baron's a good idea, as only Fate is left standing.
It's such an unfortunate situation as Liiv Sandbox, because that initial play doesn't really work out. I don't think you can funnel into that, even though the flash puts backhand in an awkward position. But to then kind of try and force your way into a turret when you just used all your cooldowns is super, super greedy. If it's not a Hail Mary steal, I don't know how Liiv Sandbox is going to deal with this. Not happening.
Yeah, Croco ain't going to get in there. Doesn't have flash. No opportunity is now. Pyosik finds another watch out heap. Solar Flare is just going to slow down the Udyr as now Summit, looking to donate himself as tribute by the looks of that, decides against it in the end, is now still wanting to stop DRX from getting free backs, but it's just not going to happen when he's 1 Jace versus 5. The Sandbox with a little bit of time with control of the map, and Summit should be able to plow down this inner turret. This is only the beginning. It's 2.5 minutes now for this Baron buff. Try and knock down some of these structures.
Well, you got him. And here we go again. Croco catching an Udyr is never as good as it quite feels.
Yeah.
Because he is just incredibly tanky. They use all the CC on him and he will die in the very end. The main thing though is with the position, fighting position there is that Liiv Sandbox can't actually engage. This movement though, I don't agree with. Look at the cooldowns already used. Yes, this scatter and Everfrost from Solka is insane. It's super well played and I love that he goes for those proactive plays. But that should have never been an option, ever.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely good that he did take the chance.
Oh yeah?
But shouldn't have, like you say, even had it. As here in the mid lane, Baron is going to help them shove down this outer turret. 2 seconds on that Mountain Drake. DRX looking for Soul Point. They will be able to find it. No way that Liiv Sandbox can actually answer as Summit. He goes home, managed to shove out the bottom side. That's going to put a little bit of a dampener into DRX's power play.
Regardless, anything that Liiv Sandbox does here is just kind of running out the clock, because I feel like their comp has missed its natural spike, right? You're looking for the 1-2 items on your Samira and on Summit, and then you go from there. Sure, you have an Azir, but just an Azir is not going to do it.
Yeah, Pyosik is going to put people to sleep. Gets a flash already as there's the killer instinct to answer. Cal falls down, Summit also in trouble, and they'll grab themselves a red buff as well. DRX feels like they're having their cake and eating it too. It's feeling pretty nice for them here in game number 3. A game that they flourish in. DRX have the most practice in game 3s out of anybody else in the LCK for spring 2021 by a large margin.
Atlas, does that mean
Ooh,
that they're
best of 5 power?
Yeah, that they scale exponentially, so when they get to 5 games, it's even more insane?
Yeah, Kingen actually bouncing out here as he spends some time underneath the turret. Solka going to teleport in, give him some support. We had a look at that gold graph. It did stagnate a little bit, but you can see, based on the kills alone, it looks like this is an absolute shellacking as Val looking for some extra damage. Becca not going to be as lucky, and Prince is going to be able to lock down that kill. Inner turret on the bottom side is going to fall, but now 4 versus 5, DRX do have to back away.
And I'm looking for the win conditions here for Liiv Sandbox. It's the final game of the LCK, and Liiv Sandbox, or for the regular season at least. Liiv Sandbox, they've drafted the most Liiv Sandbox comp that you could possibly see, with a Samira, with a Jace. If you then miss your moments, it's like you want to go and catch the train, right? In this case, the hype train. And then, you know, oh, actually, I missed the train. Can I still go? And then people are like, no, because you missed the train. Like, there's not actually an opportunity for you to go anymore. And then it leads to situations like this, where, yeah, that went very haywire very quickly, and DRX can just move into the enemy jungle repeatedly, do whatever they well please, and go from there. Sure, Becca gets taken down. This is a free kill giving over to Prince, which is not something that should happen.
Yeah, it was a misposition of Becca. He just walked a little bit too far into enemy territory.
But does it matter? No, in 3 minutes you're going to get your Drake, and I talked about how good it would be for Liiv Sandbox because the DRX has a lot of burst. Guess what Liiv Sandbox have in terms of consistent damage at this point, outside of Fate?
I mean, it's an Azir wall, I guess, and a Dream.
It's Azir, yeah, and that's it, basically. Prince can get some work done, but the amount of CC available by DRX makes me believe that he won't actually get the opportunity for a big pop-off. And if he or Azir doesn't pop off, Summit at this point just doesn't have the raw damage available. It's not where the Jace excels. And I wasn't joking about missing your train. That's legitimately how it feels now to play like a 1 in 5 Jace 26 minutes into the game, knowing that your opponent is going to get more and more resistances. None of your accelerated shock blasts are actually going to have the impact that you want them to have.
He's still farming pretty effectively, and he will be able to take down turrets if he's left unattended, but that's all just if DRX hangs up their macro game entirely and allows him to spend time with inhibitor turrets and nexus turrets. I mean, Fate is also going to be there to provide consistent damage alongside Prince, I guess, in some theoretical fights, but it just feels like DRX are way too far ahead right now.
It's just not enough. Because I agree, like, that's what you're looking for, but is that going to be it? Personally, I'm afraid that it's not going to be nearly enough. And
yeah, Kyoshik's a higher level than Fate,
yeah,
which is crazy.
That's
Passive's
one.
Really starting to hurt too.
Just one. He's 2 masks already. Zonya's on the way, and then Pyosik is the happiest little deer that ever wandered around the forest.
Should be getting that relatively soon. Basically has it because the stopwatch is unbroken for now. As Liiv Sandbox, 1 minute until they are going to be forced to try and find that miracle team fight. Mountain Soul going to be so difficult for them to get over. Damage dealt. Most damage actually by Summit, but second is Pyosik. This Lilia has been doing a lot of work for DRX. Jace, of course, just loves throwing shock blasts, so it's understandable. And this is just tidying up the lanes, try and make sure that DRX do have a way towards this Drake, or it's win a team fight. Prince is going to have to flash already. Solka finds an attempted stun onto Effort, but Unbreakable Will's going to be there. Kingen, no Naba, but does have flank position. 25 seconds now on the Drake. As Prince, he might need to go for an attempted reset, but now he's out of time.
It's not going to happen.
No.
They can't contest. Both Effort and Prince need to back here, but they can't back. They need to be at the Drake. And as DRX, you're super happy. You don't even have to engage her anymore.
Kingen, yeah, actually just diving forward into 3 people. Summit to the skies. Shock Blast going to find the gap between all of the people. Effort going to get bowling balled as now Fate makes his way back. Solar Flare just says goodbye to Summit. 1 and 6 now on the Jace. And Pyosik, he's just going to solo out this Mountain Drake. And it's not something that Liiv Sandbox have any right to contest, especially not without their Jace that was pivotal in any sort of siege or face-off scenario, right? Shock blasts were going to be necessary for that. As, yeah, Pyosik secures the Mountain Soul. And he's come alive, right? He was really struggling in game number 1. Pyosik gets a pentakill in game 2. And maybe, just maybe, it's that mojo coming back. It's the mentality slowly but surely getting repaired here for DRX.
I'd agree, but personally, I'm looking at King, and the fact that you go from losing your counter matchup to winning your stomping, I'd say, your counter matchup, to getting countered and then still winning
Yeah.
within one best of 3. Like, that's the type of mental fortitude that we were hyping DRX up for it when they were playing really well. And I'm happy to see that team return. Is it a bit late? Yes, because playoffs are literally happening like this week.
Yep.
They're coming up.
I mean, any win to give you momentum's good though, right?
Agreed.
Like, we have to go back to the stakes that are here, and there aren't any for this particular match. However, DRX need to do whatever they can to get over that slump. It's purely round 1 that's got DRX into the playoffs, and they need to show us exactly why they were so good back then. As DRX, okay, Liiv Sandbox, we're closing in. That's because DRX backing away because Kingin's on the top side, getting another wave in, slow push on the bottom lane as well. As Liiv Sandbox, they have some homework to do. They are putting it off. It's not a time for procrastination, but unfortunately they feel like they have to try and put on as much pressure as they can, as Jonas Strong, thankfully, down here. There's a season, so of course he's going to get there as we've got a couple of sleeps. On 2 of the tanks, actually, is now Kingin looking for Kuroko. Becca comes on forward as well. Decent knock-up from Effort, but some very low health bars here, as DRX may have just bought themselves a Baron without even needing to get a kill.
And here you see the problem. There's no damage. There's Mountain Soul available. Liiv Sandbox are too far behind. None of their poke sticks. The only one doing consistent damage at this point is Fate, unless Prince finds the biggest all-in that you've ever seen.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether he can actually go for it, as Kingin stride breakering forward. Effort doesn't have the ulti available, as there's Becca finding the Zenith Blade onto Summit, who immediately flashes out of there. Kuroko, Effort still extraordinarily low. Prince at full health, Blade Whirls the bowling ball. DRX, they're not looking for any Barons or anything, they're just staying grouped up as a team.
No.
Wanting to make sure that they have all the options possible.
See that damage?
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
no, we didn't.
It killed the shields.
We didn't see that damage.
Then they came back again.
That's the problem, Atlas.
Yeah,
It's bad.
it's definitely a worry. Effort's still sitting at half health, but he can do a lot of work with that. Can potentially Hex Flash his way over here as, okay. Fate gets in, looks for the hero play, finds a couple with the Emperor's Divide as Bao goes golden. Becca looking for Prince now as well, and I have a feeling this is a wallet story, but no! Prince tidies it up! Oh my god, the hero saving Liiv Sandbox in this moment! And now they're going to be able to get some real work done!
No way! I see!
What?
Listen, I'm telling you,
I'm
know
listening,
what?
don't worry, this time I'm listening!
I need you to listen to me! I'm telling you, the biggest all-in that you've ever seen, and the words haven't left my mouth. Or he finds the biggest all-in that I've ever seen!
Are they just going to win the game? There's 20 seconds on Pyosik,
No!
there's 12 on Bao. Prince still alive, he can wipe these turrets out. Fate there as well, they'll take the first one.
No!
They're looking for the second. Becca's going to turn up. Prince will be stunned for a little bit, but now the Nexus is exposed. 2 seconds on Solka, 3 on Pyosik, but the Nexus is dead, and Liiv Sandbox say goodnight to the spring split and go